Hi everybody. Today we are going to do another eyeshadow look. I am really excited. On my Facebook, those of you that are friends with me on Facebook saw this. I did a poll, posted a couple of different eyeshadows, different eyeshadow palettes, and asked for my friends to choose. And what I'm going to do is I want to challenge myself. One palette, 7 days, 7 different looks. And my friends wanted to challenge me as well. One of the options was this guy here. This is my KKW Beauty Classic Eyeshadow Palette, which I'm excited that this is the one that was chosen because I'm currently really, really obsessed with it. But also 7 days, 7 different looks with the most nude palette that I own. So coming up with seven different looks is going to be a definite challenge for me. But I'm really, really excited. I do want to say first, if the lighting is a little weird, I've got some shadows and stuff happening. It's really early in the morning. The sun is not up yet. So usually I have light coming in through my windows that's helping. This time I don't. So I had to move my camera best way that I could so that I could get some light on my face to actually do the shadows so I can see what I'm doing. So it's making the shadows a little funky. So sorry for that. Also, if y'all notice this bit that we have going on here, my hair hates me today. Whatever. We're happy I'm dressed. So I'm not going to talk a lot more than that. We're just going to jump right into it. So I don't know if you can see, I'm kind of wearing this orange shirt. So I am thinking in here today that I really want to focus on these two shadows in the middle. So Selfish and North, and then maybe pull in these two here for transitions. Family and Dash. So if you guys don't have this palette, look for something similar tones, or you can do just totally different tones, just something that's in the same color family, and you'll be able to follow along. I do have eyeshadow primer on right now. I'm using my NARS, whatever it's called, primer. I like that one because it's a little more slip for blending out. I also have a unique primer that I use a lot, and that one I use when I want more intense of a look. But today we're going to go for, I think, something more softish. Kind of have a picture in my mind. I don't want to call it a smoky eye, but kind of just something with those really pretty vibrant oranges buffed out on the shadow, on the lid. I'm still drinking my Thrive, like I said. It's early, but I wanted to get this recorded. I actually intended to start this yesterday, but I didn't feel good in the morning. And then mid-afternoon, I was like, oh, too late. So I thought, oh, I'll do it at night and play with makeup at night, because sometimes I like to do that. And it doesn't matter that I'm not going anywhere, because honestly, today I'm not going anywhere either. And then I forgot. So short story is I didn't do it yesterday because I forgot. So I wanted to get one done today. And like I said, it's one a day for the next 7 days. So this is going to be fun. That was like the most rambling thing like in a long time. So I'm just using a nice big blending brush, and I am going in with this one right here, and that's going to be my first transition shade. These are nice and pigmented, and they blend out really, really easily. So it doesn't take a lot. So I do tap the excess off of my brush. As far as blending brush, use whichever ones you have. This one is a nice fluffy soft one, which helps to kind of blur the shadows out. If you're using a different palette, different shadows, and you find that you're getting patchiness or the shadows aren't blending out as much, try a little stiffer brush. Kind of helps to push the product. But this one, they blend out super easy. And I find that my fluffy brushes work just fine. And they feel nice. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just going in with the lighter of those 4 shades that I pointed out to you. And just kind of creating a bit of a transition. Dipped into the wrong shadow. That would have been dangerous. I do have my little color switch thing here, which these work really, really nice. It doesn't keep the brushes like sparkly clean, but it helps to transition shadows so you can use the same brush a couple of times, different colors, either on the same eye look or a couple of different days if you don't have a million brushes. I have a million brushes, but I use them all most of the time. So I do still wash my brushes once, about every other week for my shadow brushes. And then I do still have my liquid, little spray bottle. This guy that I use to clean the brushes if I use a really pigmented one and the color switch isn't really helping, so that I can get the shadows off. And that is micellar water and rubbing alcohol. So it dries very, very quickly. You don't need to like leave the brushes for a couple hours. So if I wanted to use that right now, I could still use the brush for this application. I'm just trying to get kind of a nice, even, nothing too bold. I just want a nice transition happening so that it's not like bam, orange. So that's what we're doing with that. And then I'm going to use kind of a smaller, fluffy blending brush with that same shade. And I'm just going to drag it under my eyes. And help to create a smooth transition down there as well. And if you're like me and you have small eyes or hooded eyes, I wouldn't really say mine are small, but they're definitely hooded, and you don't have a lot of room for shadow, utilizing the space down below your eyes as well helps to create more of an impact with whatever colors you're using and create the illusion of bigger eyes or more lid space because there's more color impact. So that's a nice little trick. And I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller blending brush than I was using for the first time on the top, and I'm going to go into this next darkest shade here that I also wanted to use for transition. And we're going to stay on the corner of the eye and a bit into the crease, but we're not going to go as far up or as far in as we did before. So kind of concentrating the color right here and then blending it into the crease and on the outer edge of my lid. And I'll go in and dip a few times if I'm looking to really deepen a color. I would rather put very little on each time and dip in more times, add more color, than one dip and be stuck with a ton of color that I now got to cover up. So different shadows play differently. So if you are using a very, very pigmented shadow, use a very light hand, and you wouldn't want to dip in as much. Like I said, these are pigmented, but they blend out really, really well. And so I'm dusting the excess off of my brush, so I'm putting very little on each time. So my plan is to do 7 different videos. Gosh. It might be a good idea to do them at night so that I can talk. And I'm not really sure how I want those videos to look. So today the look I'm doing is going to be fairly simple, so I figured it wouldn't be too long to do both eyes. There's one I have in mind that's probably going to be a more intense look, and I don't want to have like an hour-long video because then I really will be rambling. So I'm just kind of bringing that same color further onto the lid, and you can see I'm already getting that nice kind of brown orangey color. And then I'm going to go back in with that original brush, no extra product, and I'm just going to buff around the edges. To kind of create a nice smooth transition. And then I'm going to go in with my Unique Deluxe brush. This one is a fluffy but kind of flat brush. It's fairly dense and it's good for packing color on. Here's my camera. So we're going to go in with that, and we're going to go in with this matte terracotta type shade. And I'm going to put that all over the lid. So I'm going to use just a kind of packing, pressing motion and go all over the lid and up to the crease. And kind of just tap that over and a little over the edge of that last shade. Ooh, now we got some color happening. This is the fun part when you start to see the colors really appearing on the shade, on the lid. And so it's something that I think a lot of people jump to, is just packing all that color on. And then they wonder why it doesn't look as blended or natural or subtle as they would like. But you have to take the time doing the transition, I think. And whether you're using a very bright, colorful shade for the transition or you're using more natural tones, it makes a huge difference. Now I'm going back in with the darker of the transition shades, the one that we had kind of on the corner and into the crease, and I'm going to kind of put that back over the top just to create some more of that impact again. But a lot of people will skip the transitions, and no matter what colors you're using, if you're blending out a bright color or using kind of a more natural color, that is what makes everything melt together. That's the word we're going to use. It's what makes everything melt together. And so taking the time to do that is going to give you a more cohesive look than if you had just jumped straight in. So if I just went straight in with that orange, I could buff it out around the edges and use that also as a transition. But that's still the same thing. You have to take the time to do your transition if you don't want to end up looking like Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Mimi. But if you don't want it to look just like painted harsh lines, take the time, blend out the edges. Whether, like I said, whether you're using one color or 20 colors, you want that nice blended edge. It's going to make all of the difference for you. And now I am going to find a brush that I want to use. I'm going to go in with this nice little flat shader brush. Don't remember the brand, from one of my BoxyCharms boxes. And we're going to go in with this metallic color, terracotta. It's very similar to that last shade that we laid down on the lid, but with a metallic finish. And we're going to go kind of right here in the center, not all the way to the inner corner and not all the way to the outer corner. And I just want to bring in some dimension. And so I'm just going to pack that in on the lid. focusing on that centerpiece and then kind of tapping as there's less product around the edges. And that's not giving me much payoff, so I'm going to switch to using my fingers. Gosh, that's such a pretty color. And I'm just going to tap it on. Always use like middle finger, ring finger, something like that, so you're not pressing too hard or dragging, pulling on your lids. You don't want to age yourself prematurely. And so I'm hoping this plays well on camera. So you can see this is the side that just has the mattes on it. Very pretty, very pigmented, but doesn't have a lot of shape. This side here kind of has more dimension to it. And I will put some pictures in the comments on my Facebook post with this. So if you're not on my Facebook, find me there. It's Lindy Lou. And hopefully you guys can really see that in the pictures. It's a little hard because it is so dark out. And I'm not one of them fancy YouTubers with a big setup and a nice desk. I'm literally sitting on the floor in my bedroom. You guys are sitting in my closet. And that's what we work with here. I spend my money on the makeup, not on the recording equipment. So that's me. So you can see it's a very pigmented shade, so it does kind of leave a cast on my fingers, which I enjoy because that means it's got some pigment. And then I'm just going to go in once again with that original brush and blend out the edges. I like it. So that's the look for the eyeshadows. I am going to finish it off with some eyeliner and mascara. You guys don't need to see me do that because it just makes me make faces like this. So you don't need to see that first thing in the morning. Like I said, I will post some pictures so you guys can see once everything is together, but this was kind of more just me playing with makeup. I hope you kind of learned something from it. But I got to get moving. Got to go pick up some kids for some babysitting / auntie playtime. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.